This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Hello, college sports fans, and welcome to the Primetime Podcast. My name is Ricky Widmer, and as always, I'm joined by the one, the only, Brandon Swanson.
Hey.
And Brandon, today, we're kind of starting the podcast off on, I'm going to say, a somber note. It's a topic that we knew about during the summer, during football. However, it kind of got, to me, overshadowed by the beginning of football season and how excited we were for the upcoming football season. But now with football over, with the news that has come out about the Louisville Cardinals, the men's basketball team, that they are self-imposing a one-year postseason ban for 2016, and there's still an ongoing investigation by the NCAA this is all about the alleged recruiting scandal at the school. It's huge, and this is what we're going to start the podcast on. We're obviously going to talk National Signing Day and some bracketology later on, but with everything that we know right now about this ban, Louisville's not playing in the tournament this year. What does it mean moving forward for the Louisville Cardinals?
You know, I think first of all, I want to start off by saying I think this is horrible. I think it's horrible for the players who had absolutely nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. I think that it's just horrible, especially for the transfers who came in their senior year.
Damian Lee and Trey Lewis were the graduate transfers, and they're the team's the two leading scorers on the team.
And they're not going to the conference tournament. Mm-hmm. They're not going to the national tournament. And the Louisville Cardinals, are currently ranked number 13. They were well on their way to a great tournament for both of them. I think it's disgusting. But I think going forward, this does not help Louisville. It does not help them that this happens. I think that people will look at them and say, hey, did they have their stuff together? And right now it's looking like, no, they don't. You know, you've got a coach saying, you know, he doesn't think that this should happen. You've got a self-imposed ban. But you understand. Mm-hmm. People have to understand the self-imposed ban. If they don't self-impose a ban on themselves, the NCAA is going to do, well, they're going to do it anyways, but they're going to do a full investigation, and they're going to do a ban, an NCAA ban, which would be much worse than the ban that Louisville is doing themselves for this season. I just think at the end of the day, what is it doing? It's punishing the players, and it's punishing a lot of players who had nothing to do with it, and that is not right.
Well, and I mean, to me, the first thing that I think of, and this kind of goes back to the origin of everything that went on. If you're sitting there going, Ricky, I don't know the details, what are they? Basically, there was Katrina Powell published a book, and she was a former escort, and she was hired by then assistant at the time, Andre McGee. He was actually, in the ESPN article, it actually calls him a staffer. So to me, that's less than an assistant. He could have been an assistant, but in the article, it's a staffer. And this staffer, McGee, hired dancers to strip and have sex with recruits and players while they were on campus. Like, a big recruit comes, what's the best way? Hey, let's hire some dancers to see if we can get them to come to Louisville. And when the report first came out, they were throwing big names everywhere. Terry Rozier, Kevin Ware. It's like all these names, like, oh yeah, they were a part of it when they were recruited on campus. There were pictures that outside the lines had everywhere. And when I first heard of the story, my first thought was, I know Rick Pitino, Coach Rick Pitino, said that, hey, I had no idea this was going on. And my first thought was, okay, you may not have, but you needed to. The reason being, you are the head coach of this basketball team. When there's something like this going on, you have to know. And it's like, if you're And I know there's some things where it's like, okay, well, it wasn't happening in the athletic conference, or it wasn't happening in the athletic building, so how would I know? There's the good coaches that just know. Do you think that Coach K, Coach Izzo, would not have a pulse on what his staffers are doing with players, what players are doing? I mean, you can't keep surveillance on them 24/7, but my first thought was Pitino had to know. And to me, my first thing was, Pitino, sit out the season. That was my first thought. Just sit out the season. Put the suspension on yourself. Then you don't hurt the players. Because, Brandon, you hit a great point. These 2 graduate transfers, I'm using them as the example, they're the ones that get hurt the most. Because after this year, they don't have any more eligibility. They don't get to play for that. They don't get the moment of, we talk about different championships like, oh man, this what makes it so great. And the thing that makes college basketball's tournament so great is to be able to go through all these games this grinder that you have to go through just to get to the championship and then win it, cut down the nets while the confetti's coming down and what's playing over the speakers. One shining moment. Makes it, just for those college kids, makes it one of the best things that I'll never experience, that's for sure, because my college days are well over and my basketball career didn't really get a kickstart like I hoped it would, as it ended very early in my career. But now I'm looking at an article now on ESPN where it basically says that Rick Pitino calls the system broken for punishing college sports programs.
You know, here's the worst thing, is that maybe Louisville doesn't win the national championship. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't get to the Final Four. But we'll never know because they took away their chance.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did. They took away an opportunity from these guys. They swiped it out, took away the rug from underneath them. Now what are they playing for? What are they playing for? I mean, you playing to win? Got a big game against Duke. You know, when we're recording this right now, Louisville's playing Duke. I said to Ricky, we got 2 big games tonight. Louisville, Duke, Texas, Oklahoma. One of them matters. Doesn't matter for Louisville right now.
See, and that's the thing where usually I'd be right there alongside you, Brandon. You know what? It doesn't matter. Go ahead and lay down. You guys aren't going anywhere. You guys aren't going to be playing for the postseason. But, and I know it happened before the ban, they go ahead and beat the Tar Heels from North Carolina. Cool. We got another thing on our resume. Oh, okay. The resume doesn't matter now because then on Friday, when the school was like, there's the ban, you guys can't play in any of the postseason, against Boston College, who, let's just be honest, Boston College is not a very good basketball team this year. They are a 7-16 overall team, and they are 0-10 in ACC conference play. Louisville could have laid an egg right there and said, you know what? We're not gonna try. What's the point? They come out and beat them 79-47. I know what you're saying, but Ricky, it's Boston College. But if I'm Rick Pitino, I'm sitting there telling my boys, let's go out there and play every game like there is no postseason ban. Because could you imagine them in the next remaining games that they have? Here are some teams that they can pretty much ruin chances for. They play Duke twice. If they beat Duke twice, Duke is ruined, in my opinion. Ruined. Outside of the top 25 for the first time since I can ever remember. Now you play a team that basically everyone's expecting to just lay down and do nothing. You can kill Duke's season. Duke would still probably make the tournament, but Duke may get pushed into that, they may be a play-in game, which Coach K playing in one of the play-in games for the tournament seems unheard of. You've got number 12 Miami. Yeah, you can't knock them that far down, but if you beat them, you're going to knock them down. And then you've got Virginia who, yeah, they beat you at your house, But what a way to just ruin their senior night right before they get to go onto the postseason. I think my main point is you could be the biggest spoiler in the ACC.
I was just going to say Louisville is the biggest spoiler in college basketball right now. One thing that I want to pose out there, Ricky, why now? Why now for this girl to come forward? It's been going on apparently for a while. Why now? And why is it that it seems to always happen like this? This stuff like this has happened before. This isn't the aha moment. Oh, it happens in college basketball. Who knew? This has happened before. Why does it seem like all the time there's always significant time that goes by and then they come out? Is it because, now this is a prominent time for Louisville. Let's ruin them. I mean, what's the thinking? What is it?
I have no idea. And I just, right now into Google, I typed in Katrina Powell because the only thing I can remember is I remember this first being on Outside the Lines before we were really thinking about college basketball, when it was, to me, it felt like football was just getting started. And I just clicked on an ESPN article where the headline reads, former Louisville recruit about his visit. It was like a strip club. The date on that, October 20th. So it was in October, around late October, early November-ish, when the Outside the Lines report came out, where the book was published. And to me, that is the big reason of why now, because in this article that, like I said, is dated October 20th of 2015, it says in here, and I quote, a book breaking the cardinal rules, basketball and the escort queen, that's what the book is called, published this month by self-described former escort Katrina Powell. So in my mind, the only thing I can think of course, I'm not Katrina Powell. I'm not going to speculate why then, why now. I'm feeling if it says right here the book was published when she came out about it, she was waiting for all the thoughts to be published in the book so that she could say, you know what, I'm going to tell you about it, but for everything else, read the book, because the book probably had a lot more than what she said to Outside the Lines.
You going to get this book? You going to read this book?
Me? No. The reason why I'm not going to read this book is everything that I kind of heard for me is ludicrous. And if this is true, Louisville, I'm not going to. The big question is, and I'll pose this out, is if it's 100% true, which it seems like some of it may be true. The first thing I think of, the first thing that pops into my head, maybe it's the football fan in me, but death penalty. Everyone was talking about it when the Penn State scandal happened. Every single scandal we've had, people immediately bring up the death penalty. That could be in the back of the NCAA's mind. I won't read the book because if I was a Louisville Cardinal fan, I'd read the book because I would be invested. This would be my team. For me, as an outside college basketball fan, I don't even want to think of that stuff. Maybe you can see that as me kind of not turning a blind eye to it, but I'm going to let the NCAA, I'm going to let Louisville just kind of manage this out. This is not a spot for me to come in and read the book and then try to be an expert on this so that I can make a ruling.
Rick Pitino, great coach. Great coach. I mean, his record speaks for itself.
Does this tarnish his legacy?
But he's had his own personal issues. Mm-hmm. He has not been faithful. He has had his problems, his demons. Did he know about this? Did he turn a blind eye to it and say, whatever we have to do, we do?
See, and that's the question. That's the huge question about this is, did Pitino know what was going on? And to me, the first thing I think of, let's say the answer to that is no. then why? I mean, it's easy for me who I didn't play college basketball, never was a assistant coach, wasn't a graduate assistant, probably never going to be a head coach, let's be honest. So you can easily say, well, Ricky, you don't know what you're talking about. But the one thing I do know from being around college basketball as much as I have with watching the game, me and you, Brandon, in college and still now calling basketball games, being like able to talk to head coaches and assistant coaches over the years, the ones that I've talked to and seen on TV, the greats, the one thing I've never questioned about them is, that just looks like a guy that doesn't know what's going on with his program. And I'm going to bring Coach K into the example. I don't look at Coach K or Roy Williams and go, man, those two probably don't know what's going on off the court with their teams. They probably do. Let's bring, like, with Roy Williams, he probably knew what was going on with North Carolina and their scandal of, it was something with, like, tests and passing classes and letting the guys get the grades so that they could play. It's kind of hard for me to see and say, how did you not know anything? But if you did not know anything, my first question is why? Why didn't you know? You're the head coach.
That's what I think. But I do. I will say I find it hard to believe that a head coach doesn't know about things happening in his program. Mm-hmm. That, you know, as many assistants as there are on the team and staffers will say, you know, you people talk. People talk. I mean, come on. He knows what his players are doing after a big win. He knows what his players are doing.
And you're telling me these guys, these players weren't talking about it?
Yeah.
In the locker room?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
hey, man, did you hear what went? Dude, did you hear what was going on? Or word of mouth with, just word of mouth with recruits. And now it's even more advanced with Twitter and social media. And being able to, back in the day, like if a recruit lived in Kentucky, he could probably pick up the phone and call a recruit that's like from California trying to go to the same school. But it's just so much easier for a guy now. Let's say a guy in Kentucky visits Louisville. Oh, well, this guy all the way in California is also thinking about Louisville. Let me send him a direct message. Let me send him a tweet. Dude, you got to check out Louisville. And word of mouth is spreading. And the players talking in the locker room to where I'm sitting there going, how did you not know? Rick, how did you not know?
There's plenty of signs. There's things that happen. Like you said, I mean, guys talk. They talk in the locker room. They're proud of it. You know? They do something like
about
that.
The players.
They're proud of it.
Yeah.
They're like, dude, you know, I mean, come on. We like you said, even on a smaller scale, we know how the guys are.
It's the college and I mean that this can open up an entire different just world, but when you're an 18-year, I'm not even going to say a college athlete. I'm going to say even for the recruits, even like for a freshman in college, because really when you're a freshman in college, that first semester, you're still like a high schooler, let's be honest. You're not really a college student to me until that second semester, maybe halfway through that second semester. And when you're in high school, and if you experience that, you're thinking like, yeah, man, I'm pretty cool. That was pretty cool. I'm going to go to Louisville because that's what happens.
I was just going to say, going along with that, it's just if you went there and you were there for part of it, you took part in it, that was just something you did. Mm-hmm. You didn't think about it. It just happened. It was part of the
culture.
It was part of the culture. That's what you did. You didn't think twice. And nothing was happening, so it was okay. And as a new guy coming in, like you said, you just did it. Not that it's good, but a lot of times no one's thinking of the repercussions because you're not thinking you're going to get caught. Bet no one thought that Katina Powell was going to write a book.
No.
That nobody thought that. And she sure did.
And you know, it's the one thing that makes this whole thing just kind of come full circle is the guy who, there was the hall that it happened in, the Billy Minardi Hall, an on-campus dorm that I believe when they did the first Outside the Lines report, they said that was the dorm. Like, if you were an athlete, that's where they put you because they tried to keep all the athletes together in the same dorm. Who had a close bond to Billy? Rick.
It just makes you wonder. It makes you ask a lot of questions. And, you know, that's the problem, I think, is that there's too many questions out there that people feel haven't been answered. There's too many questions out there that, you know, people are asking, and it's as they never are. It's not a cut and dry situation. It's not. This happened, it's done. It's this happened, well, how'd it get started? Who allowed it? How long did it keep going? Did they know the whole time? Did they know part of the time? You know, who was all involved? Well, you know, how often did they come?
Can I throw something out
But, you know,
there?
there's that many questions. Mm-hmm. How many of those are getting answered?
Well, and you know what makes it, to me, I'm going to say, you know what makes it worse? I'm looking at an article right now on ESPN where I'm going to leave a description down below in the description if you want to see it. It's called Louisville's Self-Imposed Ban is Only the Beginning, ESPN article. And in it they say, and I quote, though Louisville would not reveal where it was in its investigative process, the Cardinals are nowhere near the finish line. No. End quote. So they took this ban, said, you know what, we're banning us from the postseason, self-imposed, and they were nowhere near finished with their internal investigation. To me, that's a huge red flag, as red as the school's colors. And I'm sitting there thinking, holy crap, there's going to be some bad things coming, because the school has yet to receive a notice of allegations. They've yet to be informed by like the NCAA that, okay, we're informing you of the allegations, we're going forward. It's just both NCAA and Louisville were doing their own investigations, and Louisville, nowhere near the finish line, bans their players from the postseason. That's not good.
It's not good, but I still think at the very end of the day, these players got screwed, and they're getting screwed. Any situation that happens like this, and you put a ban on for the players that are happening, like Penn State. I mean, you go back to that. I mean, it's another, that was NCAA, you know, that was an NCAA ban, but you're screwing the players, a lot of whom, you know, they were nowhere near any part of it. You know, it's horrific. Mm-hmm. Absolutely horrific. I think that these young men are being stripped of basically what they deserve. They deserve to be able to have that chance. And as I said earlier, they don't have it anymore. Not right now here with Louisville. And they did that to themselves. Their own school took that chance from them. That's not right. You are killing a young man's dream. Can you live with yourself? Can you sleep at night? You feel better now? Fuck you.
I'm gonna say one more thing. And this goes back to me, my head is around the same thing. How did you not know? Blah, blah, blah. I've said it so many times. But here's another aspect of it. This guy, Andre McGee, who's on your staff, how do you not know what's going on with your staff? And if you did find out, like, oh, this is going on, how was he not fired right away? That's the big questions, and there's so many unanswered questions, and I do believe the ESPN article, the headline I read, this is just the beginning.
They're right. We are nowhere near the end. especially with the things that they've talked about. They've put this ban down, and they're probably not even halfway through an investigation. That's not good.
How many times have we seen schools in the midst of a investigation, and then they go, "Oh, you know what? We put down a ban. Oh, you know what? We banned ourselves. We banned ourselves. NCAA, you don't have to do anything." And the NCAA goes, "Really? We don't have to do anything? Guess what? We're going to do something." It's just that simple. And you know who else I feel sorry for? The fans. I mean, not as much as the players. The players are who I feel the most sorry for, because there are seniors that will never, like, next year for the senior players, they don't get to come back. They don't get to come back. Whereas the fans, yeah, I feel sorry for you fans. Trevor, one of our loyal followers and subscribers to Most Valuable Podcast, I feel sorry for you guys too. Because this team, Brandon, I mentioned to you before we hit the record button, this team was in November, 50-1 odds in Vegas to win it all. By February, they were 15-1. This team was trending up. Each month that they revealed like new odds, they were getting closer and closer to being favorites in March Madness. And now the fans don't get to experience. They could have had another championship run to look forward to. And now you don't get to see that. And I mean, what's even worse is you look at the ACC standings right now. Who's at the top? Not North Carolina. Louisville. The number 1 seeded team will be absent from the ACC tournament.
It's just a shame. And things like this are not good for college basketball. They're not good at all.